We are in the GoinBatty garden right now, and I just planted some of our first stuff. If you can see right here, I've got little tiny lettuce plants that's the first thing that I have successfully grown in our greenhouse so far. And then in this row here, I planted a row of potatoes, and I have another half a row here. And that thing where the tomato cage is, that's our one little pea plant. So we decided to put him out and see how he did. So the rest of this, we've got onions over there, and that right there, and that the very far piece, that's where our onions are. And then
the last row?
Yeah, the very last row. Yeah.
Before you get to the chickens.
Yeah, before you get to the chickens. And then right here in these buckets, alright, so in this pot here, I have my lime basil in here that's starting to come up. I have catnip in this one for our cat. And then in this one here, I have flat leaf Italian parsley that's starting to come up. And then this here is actually from last year. We probably need to transplant these because they're getting bigger. This is my son's strawberry plants. So that's what's going on in our garden, because we had people ask for a garden update on what we were doing so far. So it's finally gotten warm enough, and we think the freezes are over, that some of our cold weather crops can go into the ground without getting frozen now. Alright, so at the end of last year, beginning of this year, there was a tree that was taken down in the yard, and we asked the guys to just chip it up and give us the wood chips, and we did that to cover the ground that we had tilled last year to keep it from eroding away and getting hard and all that kind of stuff. Well, the other thing that we did is after the garden was over, we put chicken manure down, and then we put cardboard on top of it, and then we put these wood chips on top of that. And when we did that, if you look, I'll get in here, pull the cardboard away. The cardboard is starting to degrade, but that soil is like super wet, and like when I would dig down in it, like it's been raining a lot, so the ground is pretty, I mean, you're gonna get kind of mud. But when I stuck my I can see wormholes in here where the little tunnels where the worms have dug around. But when I stuck my little shovel in there to plant my potatoes, I mean, we're talking a little shovel like this. I stuck it in there, dug it up, and I had probably 20 worms underneath this. And so we had some down there that just had wood chips on it, but by far, with the cardboard underneath of it, it did the best. I mean, there was more, like, I guess, underground life going on down there than just with just the wood chips, or just places where, like, the chickens have pecked it up and there's just dirt. Like, that was the hardest ground to get into, like where it's just the dirt. But
so lesson learned. Next year, we just use cardboard and wood chips.
We'll take from our compost pile that's been sitting there for about by the end of next year, it'll be a year, and we'll put all that down in these rows, and then we'll put cardboard on top of it, and either put wood chips or straw on top of that, and then just let it sit all winter. Yeah, any leaves, anything like that, because the ground was really good under that.
And even the old Alabama gardener said not to till this, just to dig down to the good dirt and use it there, right?
Yeah, that's what he told me. He said if there's wood chips on it, don't till it into your ground, because it will deplete the nitrogen out of your soil, is what he told me. So, like I said, we had the wood chips on there just because we had them, and it was to keep it from eroding away and from getting too dry. And it actually, I mean, if you look at it, like if I dig in there,
oh, that's cool.
The top is dry, but I mean, you can see the water on my fingers.
That's usable.
Yeah, and that's all usable. So we'll just cover it back up and let it go. We're gonna we'll show you the next things we plant as we go. I've got cucumbers that I've started and some other stuff, and we'll see how they do. So far, my greenhouse experiments have not gone so well, so I might have to eventually buy some plants if they don't work out right. But my cucumbers are actually looking pretty good. So right here I have pickling cucumbers. I think these here were actually touching the edge, and it got hot enough that it burnt them. But the other ones are looking really good. I replanted my cabbages. We are all about upcycling, and my grandmother will drink like Speedway sweet tea, like the great big cups of it, and then she'll give me the cups, and I use the cups as planters. I poke holes in the bottom of them, and I cut the top of the cup off so that I can grow my cabbage plants in here.
And
so,
are they reusable after we?
Yeah, I mean, I could just rinse them out and reuse them. So, all right. So here we have achachas and popolo that we got from an American homestead. We watched Zach and Jamie plant those, and they just looked really interesting, and we always want to try something new. I'm gonna have to water that again. That's dry again. Over here I've got my tomatoes that I've started, and then my tomatillos are actually coming up already right here, so that looks good. And then I've got my peppers are down here. It looks like I got one little Hungarian wax pepper coming up so far, and then this here is spinach. I planted that for me and my daughter and my mom because we seem to like that.
Introducing new chicks. It looks like a couple of them got out.
I'm making chicken stock because I ran out of the last bit of it. I have 2 chicken carcasses in here, an onion. It's a pretty good sized onion. I've got celery, carrot, the ends of the parsley, because if you want to use the parsley leaves for something, if you're making chicken stock, you don't need the pretty parsley. Sorry, I had a hair in my mouth. You don't need the pretty parsley leaves in your stock. So I just cut the ends of it off, like the little twiggy parts, and use that in there. And then I have some garlic in there. I put some poultry seasoning because our sage and our thyme hasn't grown yet. And I put that in there too. And then it's got some water. And I put a little bit of apple cider vinegar in it because these are the carcasses and I want the bone broth. That actually helps pull all the nutrients out of the bones. So it gives you that kind of darker, like bone broth, and it sometimes will get kind of gelatinous too. So, but I'm going to turn this on and just let it cook all day and then into tomorrow morning. I have it set for 10 hours, but my crock pot has a setting that once it turns off, it'll stay at warm. So if it's done in 10 hours, I can just let it sit. And I usually do let it sit overnight so that all those flavors get in together. And then I'll strain this through a colander with a cheesecloth in it, and then put it in the refrigerator until I get a bunch of it made up, because I have 3 more chickens that I have to do of our chickens that we butchered. And then I'll just can it all together at the same time.